One of the most interesting aspects of running a versus show is getting to compare and contrast the characters' abilities and weapons to see who has an edge where.
I've got to agree, but sometimes it's just nice to serve up some beef, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep, in tournaments dominated by martial arts and superpowered psychos, the grappler is one fighter that doesn't need anything fancier than good old raw physical strength.
And that's exactly what we got here, as tonight's match will be pitting Zangief, the red cyclone of Street Fighter, against Goro, the Shokan ruler of Mortal Kombat.
I'm Dan, the man.
I'm Joe, the schmo?
I'm Max, the axe.
And I'm just John. We've done our research to give our thoughts on who'd win between these two brutes.
Without further ado, let's dig right in. The World Tournament was, as its name implies, a series of fights among some of each nation's best fighters. Though it was unknown to many that this was mostly a ploy by the criminal organization Shadaloo. Regardless, every combatant participated in the tournament for their own reasons, whether it be for honor or having a chance to take down the villains behind it.
And then you got guys who are there to promote the glory of their home country. Enter the 400-pound beefcake, the Red Cyclone of Russia, Zangief!
What was the point of that?
I don't know. Just felt right. Well, anyway, Zangief was already pretty popular in his home country, but the president of Russia had plans to make his fame international and convinced Gief to participate in the World Tournament to show the world his Soviet strength. And to also give people a better image of the guy, which he wasn't aware of.
During the tournament, Zangief fought against the likes of Birdie and Ken Masters, and whether he won or lost, the president's plan worked out, and Zangief was now an internationally famous wrestler. So much so that when Shadaloo's criminal influence started creeping into Russia, the Soviet president called upon him to investigate.
Not entirely sure how investigatory a 7-foot-tall walking mass of muscles is supposed to be, but I digress. During which he made friends with fellow wrestlers E Honda and R Mika, who helped him in destroying Shadaloo's Psycho Drive.
And then another world tournament rolled around, and after all that, Zangief was more than ready to show off more of his moves. Speaking of which, we should probably get into that.
Right. Zangief's a traditional wrestler, so he's got a lot of the classics, using a lot of strong headbutts, grabs, headlocks, body presses, stuff like that. Of course, the Gief also has a lot of non-conventional moves too, like a double lariat that can be pulled off slowly or quickly, a devastating spinning pile driver that puts his foe's face right in the Siberian forests, and an epic backhand pimp slap that knocks opponents down.
And that's not even among some of his best techniques. With the flying powerbomb, he grabs his opponents and suplexes them twice in a row. He can stun opponents using the flying headbutt, and can use the Siberian Express to slam his opponents in a way that really doesn't look perverted whatsoever.
Are we gonna get demonetized for this?
Furthermore, by utilizing the V-Gauge, Zangief can use Muscle Explosion to parry attacks with just his pecs, or Iron Muscle to turn his body red, which somehow allows him to absorb 2 attacks to recover health. Hey, don't look at me, I didn't design these moves.
And we haven't even gotten into his specials yet. He can grab opponents mid-air and crush them with Siberian Blizzard, turn into a human windmill to draw in opponents with Psycho Lariat, combine the flying power bomb with his spinning pile driver to create the final atomic buster, and the best for last, the Bolshoi Russian suplex, cracking the pavement with his opponent's noggins.
Almost makes you think he's the Mortal Kombat guy with how brutal he is. And through his sheer strength, Zangief accomplished many things. As mentioned earlier, he became internationally known due to his participation in the World Tournament, and infiltrated a Shadaloo base to destroy the Psycho Drive. He's also fought on par with the likes of Ryu and Ken in their base, both of which have fought against Street Fighter's highest tiers like M. Bison and Akuma multiple times.
And how can we forget this guy wrestles literal bears for training? And Russian grizzly bears can weigh over 1,400 pounds. But Gief's not just strong, he's also got dexterity to match. I mean, not even a sword can cut through his muscles. That's just not something you can get from a protein shake.
And while Zangief fighting bears is impressive, he's also matched Balrog in strength. The same Balrog who killed one of Dhalsim's pet elephants with a single punch, and also survived M. Bison's self-destruction alongside Birdie, which destroyed the entire Shadaloo base. So, yeah. Zangief's definitely proven himself as one of the World Tournament's toughest fighters. But sadly, not even the mightiest men are without weaknesses, and Zangief's no exception.
Yeah, while he is smart in terms of wrestling, that also makes him a very brawn over brains type guy. Especially since he can't help but bring up his codalty to everyone he meets.
Wait, I'm sorry, his what now?
Codalty, they're like Russian meat patties, so like beefcakes?
Oh.
Cultured swine.
Well, Gief's other major flaw is that, while his wrestling is effective and he can easily handle other offensive foes, he can struggle against more versatile opponents such as martial artists, which isn't helped by his lack of ranged moves. But even then, fighters are gonna have to be careful when going up against this pure Russian powerhouse. One grapple could be game over.
Martial power volume!
Mortal Kombat, a downright brutal tournament that brings together different realms and pits together their best warriors. One of these realms is the equally brutal Outworld, ruled by Big Bad Shao Kahn, and home to a race of four-armed freaks known as the Shokan.
The Shokan have been around for thousands of years, and one thing that's clear is that they all love a good fight. None more so than their leader, Goro Half-Dragon, the self-aptly titled Prince of Pain.
So wait, his last name is actually Half-Dragon?
Yep, it's a hell of a lot better than mine, that's for sure.
Well, anyways, Goro proved himself as one of Outworld's most fierce warriors. After his first time partaking in a Mortal Kombat tournament and defeating the great Kung Lao, Goro remained undefeated for over 500 years. This earned him a high reputation with Shang Tsung, as he used his victories to help Shao Kahn eventually take over everything.
But things took a sour turn for him during one title defense match, where Liu Kang, one of Earthrealm's champions, managed to end Goro's win streak by going all taekwondo on his ass. In shame, Goro disappeared after the tournament and was presumed dead until he showed up again a few years later. While still sore over Kang kicking his ass, he was too busy partaking in a war against the Shokans and a bunch of centaurs. And remember how he beat the great Kung Lao? Well, during that he ran into his descendant, the slightly above average Kung Lao, if you will.
During this meeting, Kung Lao bested him in combat and left a scar across Goro's chest. Considering themselves to be on equal terms now, the two shook hands and left it at that. So that's 2 losses now, but don't let that make you think that Goro suddenly became some jobber. Goro puts all 4 of those arms to good use in close quarters combat, with moves like the punch walk and Shokan grab, both of which are basically him just beating the shit out of you. Or he can simply use chest lunge to grab and toss opponents.
He can even leap into the air for a surprise drop attack and create mini earthquakes to trip up his opponents. But when Goro is feeling extra brutal, he equips the Dragon Fangs, 2 pairs of wrist blades that give him more fancy moves like the Shokan Stab and the Fang Spin, which are variations on his other moves, except more stabby.
And while getting up close and personal is Goro's bread and butter, he's even got some ranged attacks to even it out. He can fire a green bolt of energy from his hands called the Shokan Bolt, and he can also breathe fire. Suddenly, the Half-Dragon name makes a lot more sense.
But of course, this is a Mortal Kombat guy we're talking about. And what would one of those be without a downright gruesome way to finish a guy?
Goro wins. Fatality.
With X-ray moves, Goro can easily crush bones like they're made of glass, whether they be human, demon, or robot bones. But he's at his most brutal when he's finishing a fight.
Some of his favorite methods include beheading and skull splitting, ripping off your arms and legs, casually kicking out your torso, or when all else fails, just beating the crap out of them until they burst.
It's revolting, but I can't look away.
Goro has definitely proven himself as one of the toughest combatants, with a K. He managed to fight off Sub-Zero, Liu Kang, and Sonya Blade, who are all ganging up on him. He's defeated fellow Shokan Kintaro, aka the Tiger Dude, and he's even defeated Kenshi, a ninja master who has psychic abilities to make up for his blindness, after getting his arms chopped off. He's also tanked the lightning bolt from Raiden, the god of thunder.
Plus, as stated earlier, Goro was an undefeated Mortal Kombat champion for over 500 years. On top of that, the dude can casually break bones, rip people in half, can pull up stone pillars to use as a weapon, destroy stone, metal, and even gold like it's tinfoil, and he took a beating from the Combatant, a mishmash of some of the greatest fighters from Earthrealm, including Johnny Cage, Kano, and the aforementioned Sub-Zero. But of course, that's not to say he's invincible either. His major weakness? Investment in deodorant. Just look at the guy! 4 arms means twice as much pit stink to cover up, otherwise every match would start off with a fatality.
Well, okay, as for actual weaknesses, Goro's far from dumb, but he clearly prefers savagery over strategy, as his fighting style pretty much boils down to overwhelming his opponent with his sheer strength. Meaning a more tactical or evasive fighter could give him trouble.
And just like almost every other Mortal Kombatant, he's got a pretty spotty win-loss record. Sure, he was undefeated for hundreds of years, but after that he started taking L's to Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Taven, Cole Khan, and even a guy literally named Noob.
But still, Goro is more than capable of contending with the best of the realms, and him being the undefeated champion for so long proves his worth as one of the deadliest fighters in the entire series.
Another Earthrealmer,
You're a tall drink of water.
in which you will drown.
Covered.
Yep, and I'm betting on Mr. Forearms personally.
Yeah, no way. The Bear Huggers got this.
Well, we'll see about that.
Now that we've covered everything they got, all that's left is to push their limits!
I do not understand why Shao Kahn wishes to conquer this land. These warriors are pathetic. What do you think you are doing to my comrades? I am Goro! You will face death, like a warrior! You will do no more to Russia! You and me, we will fight like men!
Limit break!
Provide me with a challenge! I am the Red Cyclone! Die! We go for speed now! Final atomic blast! The Red Cyclone is invincible!
Well, sorry for your loss, guys.
No big deal. We gotta see a fatality either way. It just wasn't from who I was expecting.
Oof. Yeah, admittedly, the Geef kinda had this one in the bag. But that's not to say Goro was a sitting duck. Him being over 500 years old and being the undefeated combat champ until Liu Kang showed up gave him way more experience than Zangief, and he actually had range attacks to help keep his distance. Though considering he's also huge on getting up close and personal, it's uncertain if he'd actually think to utilize them properly.
Unfortunately, experience and projectiles can only last you so long if you're up against an opponent that's simply stronger and tougher, and even with the extra set of arms, it was Zangief that wound up overpowering in the end.
With both of them having similar in-your-face fighting styles, neither of them would have been much different than what they already knew. So yeah, it mostly came down to who had the better stats.
Goro is obviously way stronger than most of the Mortal Kombat cast and scales to Sub-Zero, who can effortlessly smash solid rock and rip apart cyborgs like nothing, on the account of overpowering him plus 2 other guys. But that pales in comparison to what Mr. Red Cyclone scales to. As our friends brought up, Zangief can evenly match strength and damage both Balrog and Birdie, who tanked the massive explosion caused by themselves, might I add, that destroyed M. Bison's fortress.
And furthermore, in Zangief's own ending, he even brings down the fortress himself just by pile driving E Honda over and over and over, which gives him even more of a reason to scale since he's proven he's capable of the same physical feats as those two.
Of course, this also means Goro's one of 2 advantages here. The projectile attacks wouldn't really be much help as they wouldn't be able to do any major damage to Zangief. So really, that just left him with experience, which only helped him delay the inevitable.
Ah, but wait, I hear you commenting. You said he tanked lightning from Raiden, and in Mortal Kombat 11, him fighting Shao Kahn was shaking the planet. So shouldn't Goro be the tougher of the 2?
That was unrestricted Raiden though. In normal combat, Raiden has to take a mortal form due to him wrecking everyone as a god otherwise. So no way in the Netherrealm would Goro scale to anything of that magnitude.
Even then, the planet shaking is kinda iffy, since it's merely a statement from someone who witnessed the event. It's possible it could have just been a small tremor and the whole thing was over-exaggerated.
So with all that out of the way, Goro was simply outmuscled here. The winner of this clash is Zangief.
Next time on Limit Break! Special thanks to our Patreon supporters and a big thanks to Percy Simmons, Desert Croc, Peter, Homer Manfan, and Pineapple Guy Carmine for their generous donations. Thank you from all of us at FlatZone.